So we are here today with Jem from Giganeer. So Jem, can you tell us why are skills in the UK in such short supply and they appear to be getting worse?
John, thanks for the intro, and appreciate the opportunity to chat about this. Situation at the moment is we're losing engineers at roughly twice the rate that we're actually filling the pool at this moment in time. And that's not because engineering is a bad thing, it's just the fact that there's an aging population. And roughly 500,000 engineers will be lost to industry in the next 3 years by pure retirement. So as a consequence of that, we need to be looking at how we can find a way to be able to up the number of new entries into the engineering space. And also we need to look at the other end of the equation, which is looking at how we can repurpose those who are looking to retire or retire early, and how we can encourage them to actually then stay active actually within the working sort of space. So again, happy to have a chat about this.
Good, nice points. So then looking at the recruitment, what practically can engineering SMEs do regarding that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, actually. By losing roughly twice the number that we're actually filling it at the moment, it's always going to be a very difficult scenario to get net positive. There's some great work going on at the moment with the Engineering UK team, with Chris Courtney and NMIS, and what Angela's actually doing with the SMEs, actually with Marvelous Manufacturing. So there's a whole range of great initiatives out there looking at bringing in new people actually into engineering, encouraging school leavers, encouraging school pupils to be able to actually engage in engineering. And I guess with engineering and manufacturing only being roughly 10% of the national domestic product, the issue we have is that you're more likely, I guess, to be involved actually in digital skills and other areas rather than engineering. So what we need to try and do is ensure that we actually engage at the earliest opportunity. Then there's the apprenticeships. And obviously, there's a lot of work actually being done in that sector as well. Some good, some not so good. But at the end of the day, it really is a case of a continuous sort of feed into the industry from school leavers right the way through to graduates, apprenticeships. And of course, there's the issue with regards to continuous skills. So that's something that obviously we'll go and talk about, I guess, in a while.
Nice, Jess. So we will come back to those apprenticeships, but moving on the second part from the recruitment, which would be like the retention of the talent. Again, what can a manufacturing SME do practically regarding the retention?
Yeah, it's a big point. I mean, a lot of family-run businesses are retaining their staff actually into much later life, which is cool. And it is something which I think as you start to scale your business and you get to that sort of 50 to 200 employee level, you need to maintain that level of flexibility. And sometimes that's very difficult in an organization. You've got obviously different sort of skill sets, all with different needs, wants, and desires. And it's very hard actually for CEOs to accommodate those changes. So for me, I think it's a case of building an emotional attachment to the business, of course, making sure that obviously you've got the right skills, attributes, and also got the right company culture. I think at the end of the day, as people get to a slightly more mature part of their life, when maybe their mortgage is paid, maybe when their kids are actually left home, sometimes the desire to work sometimes shifts. We're sometimes called the sandwich generation, in the fact that we're actually looking after our mothers and fathers as much as we're actually looking after our kids. So it's very much a case of our care and responsibilities start to increase, and we're in a situation where work flexibility is actually one of the key drivers. So what I would recommend many SMEs to look at is the flexibility in their sort of start times, end times, and obviously flexibility with regards to their standard working week. And again, the opportunity to maybe engage with other companies to share the knowledge and to be able to find a way that their individual workforce can actually make a difference to not just their business, but maybe to other businesses and the local economy as well. So there's a much bigger issue here. It's almost like looking after a community, almost, rather than just looking after a business. So things are changing, and I think in the last 3 or 4 years, especially with COVID, and seeing obviously what's happened after that, and with obviously now the crisis with regards to energy costs and stuff like that, we need to be adaptable. We need to be agile. We need to think slightly differently, and maybe the old norms no longer actually hold true.
Yeah, totally agree. And coming back to that keyword you said at the beginning. So looking at the apprenticeships and training, what are the key lessons here? And is there another way?
interestingly, actually, I always remember going to my kids' graduation to the school, saying that of the jobs that they'll have, 3 in 5 have yet to be invented. And I think what we've all seen actually in the engineering and manufacturing space is that things have moved on significantly. Yes, there's still the traditional skills and attributes that are needed, but there's an awful lot of digital skills which are basically coming in to obviously add a different nuance to how we have worked over many, many years. So, things like ERP, MRP, all these various other systems for controlling material movements in your factory and stuff like this. You do have maybe the practical skills, but maybe not the digital skills. So there's a whole bunch of people actually out there, including income training, who do an awful lot of work reskilling the workforce. Apprenticeships are not just for young people; they're also for reskilling of those of a slightly more mature stage in their career. I've been talking with the FSB and talking also with government about how we can maybe repackage this as continuous professional development, because being a 45-year-old apprentice feels a little wrong, and I guess it's got a bit of a stigma attached to it. So there are a lot of things that basically we need to be doing in industry to try and do that. But I think going forward, it's a case of we need to be looking at apprenticeships. We need to fund them correctly. We need to make sure that we actually obviously attract good quality individuals into our teams and groups and try and retain them as best as we can, because in engineering, one of the big things I'm seeing at the moment is the issue of even retention of Gen Zs, and typically the average expectancy in a role now is about 2.5 years. Now in manufacturing and engineering, that's just unheard of. You need to actually have at least 5 to 10 years to be able to be really proficient at what you do. So there is a disconnect in this area, and I do think we just need to try and work a little bit harder. And I think the team at Giganeer have got some ideas about how we can sort of do that and help develop it, because it's not all about skills, redeploying skills from later life. It's also maybe maximizing on the skills that you actually have within your business right now. So again, happy to engage, and we've got some advice and some thoughts on that process as well.
So to summarize a bit, listing out the key actions, what would you suggest British manufacturing businesses do right now?
So what are the top 5 things that SMEs can do with regards to looking at skills, managing the gaps in skills, but also managing the gaps in skills in the future business state? Well, Giganeer, together with FlexCruitment, has spent a long time developing up the new skills gap scorecard, which is an asset and a tool which can be used by industry, typically for companies without HR, where you can independently assess your skills within your business and plan for the future. So without further ado, let's get straight into this. Item number 1, pause. We recommend very strongly, before you even enter any data onto the scorecard, you switch from tactical to strategic mode. And what we mean by this is tactical is very much firefighting and dealing with the actions at hand. We strongly recommend that you take some time out to strategically review your business from a higher level, and ideally with others around you that you can trust, whether from inside or outside of your business, to provide that full 360-degree view. With these additional assets in place, you will be able to get the best answers out of this particular scorecard and find the most value from the scorecard. The second item is review. Here we will be looking at the current state, doing a skills assessment in that area. Here we will need things like, for example, your revenue. We'll need the number of employed so that you can look at the cost per employee. We can also then break the employees down into roles such as critical roles, specialist roles, professional roles, and operator level. And clearly here it's the criticals that you need to be looking at. These critical staff members who, for any reason, if they weren't able to come into work, would effectively massively disrupt your business. How are we going to manage that? The specialists are an interesting bunch, because the specialists are the ones which actually add unique value to your business. And I would strongly recommend that with regards to doing this, we actually look at specialists, but actually having cross-functional teams that can support one another. And then you have the professionals. It's interesting, many businesses these days actually employ professional people, literally 365 days a year, when the needs of professional support is only for literally a matter of a few days or a few weeks per year. On to section 3, which is the options. Here we dig deep and go into what we call our Eura skills and TTR, which is time to revenue. And you'll see the TTR level at the bottom. At the moment, the quickest thing to do would be to upskill your workforce. And clearly that's not necessarily going to be always possible. However, it's definitely the cheapest and the quickest way to get outcomes. Then you can outsource the skills. That is something which is becoming more and more on demand. And I think you'll find these skills are definitely going to be there going forward. Recruiting is actually the one which takes longer these days. We've seen 3 to 6 months as a typical window. And typically with recruiters charging upwards of 20% of first year salaries, it's a very expensive option. And there's always the other option, which is apprenticeships. Apprentices are a really good way of adding value to your business, but will take time. But at the end of the day, will provide you with probably the highest value asset. The next stage is planning. We also plan for the future state skills assessment. So here, we don't just look at the actual skills that's happening right now. We also look at what would happen if there were investment, for example, with cobots to actually assist individuals with regards to lights out production. Then there's the issue of internal training. If we put people through internal training, are we able to get higher value from them? And of course, we need to be looking at the future value of the business and what the turnover and revenue needs to look like. From that data, we can then plan the number of individuals that are necessary to achieve the actual sales to revenue targets that you're after. And then the last but not least is the action plan to create this new agile workforce. It's actually a roadmap which will give you some markers for you to be able to take a look at how you can build what is effectively a flexible and agile workforce. So those 5 items, pause, review, options, plan, and action, are the 5 key areas. And we hope that you find value actually from this scorecard. We thank you for your attention today. And again, really appreciate your time and energy. Thank you so much.